Good evening. So I was just watching, listening to Miranda Plants' 100 Lives I've Lived. For those of you who are aware or who aren't aware, Miranda Plant played the character Anastasia or Taji in the web series Pure Pwnage. Strongly recommend to listen to this episode. She's got a lot of good content out here, but it was quite interesting. It had me thinking and reminiscing back on that time, which has always been um, quite quite an interesting period of time, really, in gamer culture. It was counterculture, very counterculture. I always appreciated Miranda. I always affectionately say Miranda was my high school sweetheart, my high school pin-up girl, as it was. Um, I was quite prolifically known for that at the time, but I suppose, you're young, 16, 17-year-old male. You're going to have the ladies you look up to, but that was even a thing, at the time. And I talk about this with talk of history. Gaming was not in vogue. Gaming was not. Um, it was not socially acceptable. It's not like it is today with you from the younger generation that can can play a Nintendo or play an Xbox or play a PlayStation or jump on Fortnite or Minecraft, whatever. It wasn't like that for us. It was if you were known gaming, you were like a geek, right? And I know now geek is worn like a bit of a badge on your sleeve. It wasn't then for us, you know, particularly in my country, Australia, growing up in that time, even younger, but even particularly around the time of the web series of Pure Pwnage, I was in high school. Um, it was not popular to be a gamer. It was still quite strange. We were still in the era for most parts of Australia. You know, only probably in 2005, 2000, yeah, about then did we get quote unquote high speed DSL internet. Prior to that, we'd still been on. Most people were still connected to dial up. Even just a few years prior, back in 2000, it was a very interesting time to the extent where Anastasia Taji, Miranda's Plank character, was very interesting because I'm sure there were gamer girls out there, but she was sort of like the penultimate. I don't really know the way to describe it. For if she was just an ideal depiction of what a gamer girl is, almost like a template that would somewhat be cliched, followed in times moving forward. So it's a very, very different time to how it is now as to how it was, 21 something years ago. Yes? Very different time. Very, very different time. The way that the internet culture worked with gaming was it was as if and the show Pure Ownage was synonymous in reflecting this. I feel it's something that I feel, despite the fact the show is dated now, it really does encapsulate specifically the spirit of that snapshot of time that was 2000 to probably I would say about 2007. Yeah, gaming is still not entirely popular. Well, it is popular, but it's not mainstream, right? It's still frowned upon. You're still, it's still counterculture. But we, our communities were so diverse. There wasn't any YouTube or anything. There was, perhaps at best a little bit onto it. There was things like MySpace, but we shared things on Putfile and uploaded videos to like random image hosting places that were just like gimmicky websites. There was none of this social media proliferation. Everyone like from like they talk about degrees of separation. Like everyone kind of knew everyone, and there really was, just as it's sort of articulated in the show, there really was like factions of people. Now, you might not necessarily be like a grown hierarchy or some sort of, gamer army as it was, or. some counter game army, as it's articulated in the show with the big bad and whatnot. But they really were like factions of camps, right? Because you would all designate on what the major games were at the time, be it Command and Conquer, you know, Counter Strike, whatever. You know, obviously when World of Warcraft came out, that was sort of pinnacle, moving into a different age of gaming. But sort of pre World of Warcraft, it was very synonymous of like forums. And I don't mean like your Reddits or anything. It was like just literal internet forums. But unfortunately, the old Pure Pwnage forums doesn't exist anymore. It now links to Reddit. But that was like its own synonymous thing. So you would have all these groups of people, their own individual personalities. We're all young men, young women, 16, 17, 18 years of age, some in early 20s. I mean, there were older fans of the show, don't get me wrong, but predominantly, a lot of us were that first pioneering generation of online gamers that really, encapsulated it. And it was like a parallel world. It was literally like a parallel life. Uh, like the whole, I recall myself, the whole world was irrelevant to me. I didn't care about high school. I didn't care about global politics. I cared about what was happening on the Pure Pwnage forums and the Pure Pwnage TeamSpeak, which I was an admin of, a TeamSpeak moderator. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But I didn't I didn't care about a lot of that, and nor did a lot of other people that were in the community. I mean, we all, eventually go on and time changes and things change and we are the people that we are today. But at the time and the place, it was like, this is the world and every single thing else is just an illusion. It was almost like its own, um, I don't know the phrase, a society. Um, it was. That was the gaming world. Like everything was connected, and even a lot of the popular things that you know from back then, be it Homestar Runner, the early Flash memes, things Salad Fingers, things from even later on a little bit Athene and things like that. It was all community interconnected. Like everyone knew about this stuff. Everyone was interacting. Everyone was engaging. Everyone was familiar with all these things, and it all intertwined. It was the movement of people went where the games were, but then all the political grudge matches came with it. Oh, you're in this clan, or you're in this clan, or we called them clans at the time. You're in this guild, or that guild, or this group, or that group. I never like using the term clan these days. It's got some negative connotations if there's any people watching from the United States. But um, that's just how it was, and it was just like an amazing mesh pot Pwnage of just people from literally every walk of life that were into gaming, be they, well, and for a lot of us being young, it wasn't like I could say, oh, that was a blue collar worker or an office worker, or I would say whatever we were going to be, just all coming together and all playing games, all having a laugh, and that was like the snapshot of those years, particularly in the mid of the show, about the time Miranda is talking about in her podcast. By the time you get around to like episode, 5, 6, 7 on the web series, first series, that was really a melting pot. I feel a zeitgeist of the time, and part of me, anthropologically always wonders, would if it had not been for Pure Pwnage and that generational disconnect where we just didn't give a flying whatever about anyone else because we had ourselves. We didn't care. The rest of the world was ultimately irrelevant to us. We didn't care at all. Like, I know that was the case for me, and I'm sure that's a lot of case for a lot of other Pure Pwnage fans. Like, the rest of the world seemed immaterial, jobs, immaterial. Like, we worked them, well, obviously not at that time, but, a little bit after, even in the community, that it still went on into our early 20s for some of us, depending on the age when you got into it. It was irrelevant. All of these things were just totally irrelevant to what was going on in the gamer space, what was going on in the Pure Pwnage space. and the fandom and all that sort of stuff. It was just phenomenal. And the show itself, in the way it was delivered, was even magical. This was pre-YouTube. This was pre-file sharing. Everything was shared on torrents. You see, so it was always like this magical event where all the people get their initial seed from Jeff when he was seeding it off the website, and then you'd have to, someone to get it and get it and get it, and it was like just everyone coming together to share all the stuff because there was no, direct FTP or anything like that at the time. And torrents were popular because people had like really crap internet. So if they needed to pause the download because, for whatever reason, then they could. Right? It's crazy to think about. And I look at like the wonderful acceptance that we have of gamers these days with, the advent of oh gosh, everything. Things we use on a day to day. Discord, Telegram, Reddit, you mention it, right? And all the interconnectivity that we have. And like I look at this generation coming up now and like everyone's gaming. Absolutely everyone. It's synonymous everywhere. It wasn't like that 20 years ago. It really wasn't. Like you were like clutching to find like someone that gamed. Usually. It was quite rare. Like not rare in extent like a unicorn, but it still wasn't common. Um, episode 2 of Pure Pwnage, the web series, I think is Girls, is it not? So someone don't quote me on that. No, I'm sure that's episode 2. I'm sure it's episode 2. And that's it's either episode 2 or episode 3. Pretty sure it's episode 2. Like that was reality. Like I kid you not. That's what the world was. Me, Kashmir Z, my claim to notoriety was actually luck. Um, there was I was, wow, a very, how would I say? I feel the phrase would be misguided youth. So I was a musician, lead guitarist, quite into the 70s culture, so a bit of the older proverbial, this is tobacco, but I'm talking about the other. No, I used to smoke a lot of weed, and I was quite known for that. And there was a gentleman, one of the other admins at the time, Denwo. Denwo is the gentleman in one of the season finales when Jeremy is going up to combat the big bad who's captured Taji, Anastasia, Miranda Plants' character. They're like, you can't be here so soon. He's the slimmer of the two gentlemen. That's Denwo. And he said, Kashmir, I've got to go pick up my brother from school. I'm going to leave you in charge of the server for like an hour. Do you reckon you could look after it? Because the TeamSpeak server was very active at the time, and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, I still remember to this day. It was Booty Bay in World of Warcraft. Anyone who knows Booty Bay, there's that forest area, and then Booty Bay's over the other side. I'm walking through the forest. I am stoned out of my goddamn mind. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, no, that's no problem, man. Like, I can look after it. And it's like, server admin granted. It's like, okay, man. Okay, I'll be back in like an hour. Like, make sure the place doesn't, like, look after it. I'm like, yeah, man. And so the first thing I do is I create a channel. I call it Kashmir's Pod House. Wow, now everyone's coming hanging out in there. It was only supposed to be a 1 hour deal. They just gave me server admin. They never took it away until the end of the TeamSpeak days. End of the whole damn thing. That was it. It was a complete accident. It's just because he had to go pick his brother up from school and someone had to look after the server for an hour. Then, of course, I got, for my community support, I did get mentioned in episode 6. Episode 8. Sorry, episode 8. Lanigan. Which was lovely, and I've always been forever thankful to Jeff for that. But so many good people, and it was such a community and such a time that I think even like, and I genuinely mean it, anthropologically, as like a study of an epoch, Pure Pwnage is an amazing snapshot, even despite the show and what it was, and as it was just phenomenally culturally divisive in what it propagated. And I really personally don't think, if it wasn't for all of us in the community that kept it going in our own capacity, be it on the TeamSpeak, on the forums, and the IRC, in the fan created content, in the community engagement, and everything that we did, that I don't feel that gaming would be as totally accepted today at all. It was definitely a cornerstone, and admittedly, incidentally, our culture of gaming at the time, probably in many lights, is probably not entirely savvy by today's standards, because we did used to do all sorts of stuff like hack each other's discords, hack each other's TeamSpeak servers, and like take down websites, and spam server crashes on Counter Strike servers, and all this sort of stuff, and sprays and stuff. We did a lot of stuff, but because that was just the culture, that was the world, right? Because there was no one else. It was like a very, I mean, not to say the Pure Pwnage community was small, okay, but in comparison to what the gamer culture of today is, it was small by comparison. Yes, and it was all very tight knit. Like, you knew the people that were relevant. Like, you knew their names. And I could sit here and it would be me just talking about names for 20 minutes, and I'm not here to do that. But this piece, by Miranda, quite insightful. Give it a listen. Give us some support, and you know, Pure Pwnage. Go back and watch it if you're not familiar. If you're a new gamer, if you're younger, from a younger generation, and you really want to get your head around what it was like in the gaming space you know in the 2000s, and just how different the world was. Give it a watch if you haven't watched it already. Anyway, Kashmir Z, just a bit of reminiscing. Peace out.